Yes, guys, Ryjack back with another video. Today is a special one. It's something I always look forward to. It is squad building. City don't play midweek. We got that nice bye in the Champions League where we automatically qualify for the round of 16. So I thought it'd be fun on a Wednesday. Take a look at what the plans are for the summer and at least give my take on what I think some areas of improvement could be in terms of positionally and players, and then who are we looking for in summer 2026? Who are the players that fill the spots that I think are going to be opened slash need to be opened based on need for improvement or players leaving on a free due to contracts expiring. So before we do take a look at that, if you are new, do hit subscribe. I do appreciate all the support on the channel. We've hit over 1,000 subs, so thank you guys very much. That is very cool, very much appreciated. But if you're new, hit subscribe, like, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. As always, I will respond to all the comments, as I always do. So I built this on Keynote. It is a little depth chart, I would say, for the 2025 season. This is what we've got with the new signings coming in. Gahey coming in January, as well as Antoine Semenyo coming in. And it basically includes all the players that could potentially make first team appearances and or have this year. I left out a couple of players. I left out Max Aline because I don't think he is in the plans for the rest of the season. Basically, we're going to have Ruben Diaz back as well as John Stones back, who is also not really on the list because I think he's probably fifth choice and is likely to leave in anyway. So if you see Donnarumma, Trafford, Bettinelli. Right back is too deep. Mateus Nunes and Rico Lewis. But does Rico Lewis really play? Not really. The four center backs I have listed are Josko, Ruben Diaz, Mark Gahey, and Husanov. Josko, of course, is injured out for the rest of the season, most likely. So, I mean, you could, in theory, put Gahey first and then, John Stones second there on that list. But it doesn't really make a difference to me. I imagine the best center back pairing, if everyone was fit, is either Diaz and Gavardiol or Gavardiol Gahey. I think those are the top three. I know everyone loves Husanov, and I know he has a very bright future ahead, but I just don't think he's in the top three if Gavardiol was fit. But Husanov provides some versatility, can play right back, and would probably be a better right back option than Rico Lewis, if we're being honest. Then at the left back, I had Nico O'Reilly here because he was primarily playing left back, but in 2026, I think it's fair to move him over to a midfield, probably a midfielder, and then Aït-Nouri is more of the primary left back, is what I would probably look at when we look at the next year's graph after I go over this one. Rodri, Nico G, I think that is, bang on. Rodri and Nico G never really play together. And if Rodri's fit, he's playing. Bernardo always starts if fit and available. Foden is the other option in midfield, as well as Cherki and Reinders. I kind of think Reinders is in a bit of a conundrum. He feels like more of a 10, but it would have been nice if he was an 8. He's kind of a Ryan Cherki type player, but not as good as Ryan Cherki, unfortunately. He's very technically sound, but not physical. Doesn't really contribute defensively, which is what Ryan Cherki is, but Ryan Cherki's just better than him. So it's kind of a weird spot for Tijani to be. When you get to the attackers, you have Jeremy Doku over on the left with Omar Marmoush, Holland as the striker, and really the only striker that is going to play. On the right, Antoine Semenyo and Savinho as the right wing options. Again, the rest of the season could be big to decide what we do with Savinho, with Omar Marmoush, with Jeremy Doku. Savinho and Doku currently out injured, will be back, I would imagine, relatively soon, you would hope. And can anyone provide somewhat of a competition to Erling at the striker position? Not really, in my opinion. I don't think there's anyone that can really provide competition, but who can be the player that comes in as a backup? I don't know who that's going to be, and I have a feeling Marmoush or Savinho are the bottom two on this ladder. Just what I personally believe. So, if we move it over to 2026, and I haven't changed anything yet, I'm going to change it here live. Trafford is basically gone, but this can be whoever. I don't think that really matters. Maybe a homegrown goalie. Doesn't really matter. Bettinelli can stay. He's a vibes guy. Not really important. I think Rico Lewis will leave the club as well. And I would lean towards a young, up-and-coming right back. Whoever the best under 22, under 23 right back is that the scouting team, the scouting department thinks is going to be the next best right back in the world, figure out who that is and go buy that player. Because Nunez at 27 years old is good enough to be the right back. If you can find an improvement on Nunez, I would be open to that, but I don't think spending big at right back this summer is probably in the plans. I like the idea of the kid from Feyenoord, Givaro Reed, who we've been linked with. I don't really like the Livramento idea personally. So whoever the young right back is, that's who I think we go with in the summer. And I think you're probably spending, I don't know, 25 mil there. This homegrown goalie, I mean, is going to be relatively inexpensive, I would imagine. Let's say 5 mil, something like that, maybe. I don't think it'd be very expensive. I think the center back is going to stay relatively similar, but with Mark Gahey's performances, I might move him up. Honestly, he has been, I want to say, world class. He's been incredible since coming to City. So I kind of have the feeling that Mark Gahey is now the number one option for center back here. And you probably are going to see a scenario where Josko Vardiol is moving out here to left back. And he and Aït-Nouri can offer different things, but I kind of think that is what you'll end up seeing. And then the fourth choice option will be Vitor Hayes, and then Ruben Diaz and Kusanov will probably battle it out for the right-sided center back option. Vitor Hayes seems like the most ball playing of between him and Husanov. So, I mean, maybe it's Husanov on the left, Vitor Hayes on the right, but I would guess Vitor Hayes on the left if I had to guess. Josko and Ryan Aït-Nouri. I think Josko is such a complete player that he probably, even though Aït-Nouri is playing very well right now, I would lean Josko left back is a better option than Aït-Nouri left back, even though I do like Ryan Aït-Nouri quite a bit. Rodri and Nico G, I think, I'm not really sure I see changing much there unless Rodri decides to leave. If it's up to me, I'm giving Rodri a new contract, maybe 2 more years. So we'd have 3 years left, considering his current deal expires in 27. I'd give him till 2029. That would take him to roughly his age 33 season. I think that would be fine. If he decides he wants to leave, then of course you have to sell him, and you can't let him leave on a free. And you can run Nico G as your lone 6 with a backup you would buy. But I think the club wants to keep Rodri, and I would imagine he is going to stay. Bernardo Silva, while there has been some talk of a new contract for him, I don't buy that at all. I think he is going to leave, and I think we're going to buy Elliot Anderson as this Bernardo replacement player. However, with the recent performances of Nico O'Reilly, I think you're looking at O'Reilly moving to the midfield here. Nico O'Reilly, for me, is just phenomenal and has been so good since moving to the midfield full time. He's probably, for being honest, he probably starts over Phil Foden in this midfield position, which, you know, maybe that's unfortunate if you're a Foden guy. I know there's lots of Foden guys out there, but I just think that O'Reilly is performing better than him and deserves that nod personally. Just my opinion here. In the more attacking mid position, which of course you can rotate however you would want, I think you're probably moving Phil into this area here. Something like that, where you have 3 players who are similar, but Phil is maybe the best at getting back defensively. Cherokee the best getting forward, and Reinders is sort of a combination of both. But unfortunately, I kind of see a failure of a fit here. I don't really get what he really does to Johnny Reinders. I kind of a luxury player, which I don't like saying because I like Tijani Reinders. I think there's a player in there, but I think if you're buying Elliot Anderson, if Nico O'Reilly moves to the midfield full time, you're gonna have a problem, Reinders, getting minutes. So I'm not really sure what you do with Reinders, really, but I would think that this means he needs to move back one, probably underneath Nico Riley, potentially. I'd move him over here, I think. Something like that. But Nico O'Reilly, Elliot Anderson, the sides don't really matter in this specific midfield formation here. For when you get to the attacking three, you have an interesting debate. I've said for time on this channel, if you guys have watched for a while, Jeremy Doku, Omar Marmoush, and Savinho will not coexist in this lineup. I just don't see it happening. One of them is going to be unhappy with their minutes. Whenever you have 4 players for 2 positions, I just don't see it. I don't think it works. I would love it if Marmoush and Holland could play up top together, which we've seen a little bit, to be fair. We have seen that. But when you do that, that means you're eliminating an ability to play. Like if you have Marmoush and Holland up top, I don't think you can have Semenyo and Doku as your below them in the dual attacking 10s like we've done a bit. I just don't think you do that because then you don't have a Cherokee, you don't have a Foden, something like that. You're going to have a dual base in this midfield. You're not going to have Rodri, Nico, G, but it's going to be Rodri, Nico, Riley, Elliot Anderson. I feel like are going to be playing quite a bit. So it creates a lot of selection headaches, I would say, for Pep if he is still the manager here, which you never know. He might end up leaving, and then we have to scrap this whole thing because new manager might have his own thing to do. But I think if I'm predicting what happens, we're buying Elliot Anderson. We're buying this young right back, whoever this is. We're buying this homegrown goalie, and we're selling one of these wingers. I think it's Omar Marmoush. That's where my guess goes currently. I think Marmoush is out the door, and you will have a competition of the wing positions for Doku, Savinho, and Semenyo. Holland basically playing every game. I would love to buy maybe an older striker, 30 plus years old, something like that, for cheap, 10 mil, something like that. I don't know who that player is. Maybe a homegrown player. Maybe it's like an Ivan Toney. Maybe he wants to come back to the Premier League from Saudi. Maybe it's a Calvert-Lewin. Someone who's a bit older, experienced, has played for a while but not won a whole lot and wants to come in and be somewhat of a backup player. I think you need that as an option for Holland. Just in the instance where he gets injured or, you need to play somebody in the cup. I don't mind someone like that, an older English striker. Might be difficult to find. Maybe there's not a player out there that wants to do that role. But if you remember a couple of years ago, we were linked with the guy from Celtic, the Japanese guy, Hyogo something, whatever his name was. And he would have obviously been a backup, very, very minimally rotated player, only in specific situations. So in this scenario as well, do you buy another winger? I don't know. I kind of lean towards maybe the new winger is one of Cherokee or Foden, potentially, where maybe you do something like this to get Foden out of the midfield since the midfield is proper crowded, to be honest with you. It's something like that. And it's difficult because then you also have to consider the price of Anderson. I'm going to guess 65 mil, something like that. So overall outlay, it's going to be just around 100 mil, which is not crazy spending, especially in this scenario. If you sell Marmoush, You lose the wages of Bernardo Silva. You lose John Stone's wages. You lose Nathan Ake's wages. You lose Trafford's wages. I think the spend is not too serious. I think it's definitely doable. You buy Anderson. You buy a young right back. You buy a backup goalie and a backup striker. Because Marmoush out the door, you probably get roughly your money back for him. Any other player being sold, it could potentially happen. You're looking at players like, to me, that are on the chopping block. I already said Savinho. I already said Doku. And I know some people will question that Doku take, but Doku's never really done it for me. I think there's a world where he leaves in the summer and it's not Marmoush, but right now I would lean Marmoush. That's kind of besides the point. Maybe there's a world where Tijani Reinders sees the writing on the wall and just realizes if Anderson comes in, if O'Reilly's a midfielder, he's just not going to be much more than a squad player. Maybe he asks to leave. That's possible. I would think that's unlikely, but you never know. And then, like I said, Rodri, I imagine, stays. Nico G, maybe there's a chance he asks to leave if Rodri does stay and he realizes he's just not going to play. That's possible, but knowing Nico G, knowing Rodri is going to be 30, I would think there's more minutes for Nico G next year than even this year. So I don't think Nico G would want to leave, but we'll see there. Center backs, I already said, very clear. Nathan Ake, 100% has to leave the club, unfortunately. Same with John Stones. He's got to leave the club to create the room for Gehi, Ruben Diaz, Vitor Hayes, Husanov, and Gavardiol. That's a fantastic five-man center back group where Gavardiol might be the best one of them all, but him at left back is a very good option as well. Nunez, I continue to keep as the primary right back option with the young guy, whoever that is, Javaro Reed, someone else, I don't know. And then Donnarumma is going to stay in goal, in net, and you got to find a Trafford backup. Other options to come back from loan include Max Aline potentially could stay, I guess, and you want to loan out Vitor Hayes. I would imagine Vitor Hayes stays or goes on loan. I don't think he gets sold, but in this scenario, if he's a fifth choice center back, Josko primarily playing left back, I think Vitor Hayes would want to stay. And then you have Echeverri. I'd love Echeverri to be at the club and stay at the club and we could see some minutes, but if you look at the midfield, it's pretty packed in terms of the amount of midfielders you have with O'Reilly becoming a midfielder. Unless Reinders leaves the club, I don't really think Echeverri has minutes available to him, and he needs to play. So I would hold the Echeverri hype and probably consider another loan, maybe back to Girona again, another season, and then we can reassess and see how Tijani Reinders does. But anyway, that is my prediction for the summer based on kind of my opinion and come of some informed reports as well. Not a whole lot of movement, but definitely significant, and I do think this would improve the squad. This would improve the squad with this depth chart. A lot of players out the door, a lot of experience out the door, but experience only can get you so far. When you're old enough and you just don't have it anymore, you leave. I think City will be completely fine. Experience, in my opinion, is slightly overrated. It is good. Of course, it's a good thing to have, but we can't have all experienced players. We need some young, up-and-coming stars for the future to lead this club. So, thank you guys for watching. I do appreciate it. That is my take. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Of course, who do you want to buy? Is there a young, up-and-coming winger? Do you want to buy Michael Olise? I know I didn't mention him too much, but that does seem unrealistic. I guess it's an option, but anyone else leaving that I didn't mention, that I should have mentioned, let me know in the comments. Of course, like the video and subscribe. I do appreciate it. Going for 1,100 on the channel. So thank you guys, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.